Hello and welcome back to Weeknight Hero. As always, I'm your GM, Evan. Now, with Hawkeye just wrapping up and it being the last of the Disney Plus Marvel series for a while, I thought I'd finish it off with including one of the most underrated Avengers and honestly like the sleeper hit of all these MCU shows for me, Hawkeye and Hawkeye Kate Bishop. Now, I had mentioned it on Twitter, but Hawkeye kind of came out of nowhere for me. It was interesting in a way that I never thought that Hawkeye, as played by Jeremy Renner, could be. Kate Bishop was fantastic. Lucky was amazing. And the thing that I thought really stuck out were the emotional moments and the street level, sort of low power level setting of the whole environment that really made it stand out for me. I think it captured a lot of the understated moments and lesser thought about aspects of the MCU and really put them into a fun storyline. So I would rank all of these characters as sort of like a power level 9, maybe 10, where it's like a higher level street level setting, especially by the end with the kinds of opponents that they fight at the end. But we're definitely looking at something 10 or less. So taking a look at Hawkeye in this power level, he is, honestly, it's not stated very often, but with Hawkeye also being Goliath, also being Ronin, the dude has insane skills that almost entirely went unnoticed in the MCU. I know for a lot of the time, we kind of thought of him as like the normal guy, but the skills that he has are like well above what trained soldiers can do, and I'm really glad that the show showed the honestly insane feats that the man can perform. And that's really reflected in his abilities. Now, something I had noted earlier with the non-superpowered, more martial arts tactical fighter people is that their abilities are not going to go beyond maybe a 6 or so. But Hawkeye, in my opinion, definitely has 6, which is, the pinnacle of human training or achievement kind of levels with his dexterity in fighting. Like, he is absolutely a trained sniper and a practitioner of several different forms of combat. He knows how to fight. And that's also reflected a little more in his saves. So he has high accuracy. And like I had mentioned in the Falcon and the Winter Soldier video, when you're looking at these kinds of characters, the real secret is because their damage output realistically shouldn't be that high. We're looking for high accuracy, and it could not get higher for Hawkeye. His active defenses and his bonuses to initiative mean that he's a difficult opponent to hit. He's right up there with the other high-level martial artists like Captain America or the Winter Soldier. And ultimately, when you take a look at his saves, his endurance is heavily bolstered by that defensive role that a lot of non-powered people really should be using. So he's pretty maxed out when it comes to his active defenses and his saves, meaning, rather unexpectedly, he's a very agile and very durable fighter. He's kind of got the best of both worlds. Now, when you're looking at the seriously stacked levels of advantages that he has, traditionally I break this up into maybe 2 or 3 categories, but this is going to be a little bit difficult because there's a couple different aspects to Clint Barton's character that make it very difficult to align with. You have obviously those improved aim, you have those ranged attack, you have quick draw, you have precise attack that come from his Hawkeye persona that really allow him to just accurately attack people. Then you also have things that come from shield training, like tactical training. Of course, he has that power attack that a lot of our non-powered people really need to use. And he has a mix of martial arts combat advantages that kind of reflect the fact that he's a master of several different styles. And ultimately, the last couple of advantages come from his Ronin background, where with agile feint, redirect, and with swords, he can take down swaths of opponents. Several minions can go down in a round fighting him. And despite the fact that we look at him as a non-powered character, he does have a couple of powers here, mostly to show his sort of peak human training. He has incredibly high. He's called Hawkeye for a reason, people. He suffers so few penalties with his perception roll that something like that could easily carry over into the accuracy of his attacks. He can be taking long-range shots from across a battlefield and take people out. That situational awareness and speed power really just add to his maneuverability and his training, because he can't be surprised. He's a lot more on the martial artist side in a lot of these than just the bow guy. But despite his insanely good skills in every other area, where he really shines is his equipment and his trick arrows. Now, the beauty of the trick arrows is that they are built to give him a tactical advantage, and his bow, with its high tensile strength, which is something I didn't quite realize, it's something that's able to generate so much force with the arrows. It is equivalent to automatic gunfire. Like that, the draw strength on his bow is 250 pounds. So he's able to do insane damage with that, and that's reflected in the power ranks of the trick arrows. Now, I can't go down the whole list of the trick arrows and explain why each of them is important, but it covers the entire gamut of what he'd be doing. He has powerful afflictions, burst area damage attacks. He can take on one person, or he can take out 5 in one attack with a good area attack. He has single person afflictions. He has smoke arrows that, with his precise attack, debilitate his opponents and allow them to not really see anything while he's shooting at them from the side. The only real limit to the more powerful trick arrows is that he only has a few uses of them. That's that unreliable drawback, where you only get a couple of uses out of them, but how many uses do you need of the explosive arrow to take apart the gang of criminals that's fighting you? Now let's take it to Kate Bishop. So naturally, even in the comic that Hawkeye is based on, there's a little more of a, protege kind of a role where she's stepping into the Hawkeye persona. And to match the power level of the setting, she's a little bit under-leveled when it comes to the power level. With her being at power level 8 and it being a little more of a power level 9 or 10, she's just a little bit behind, but where she makes up for that is in teamwork. Now, you'll notice that she has very similar skills to Hawkeye, and that's for a reason. She is taking over the role as Hawkeye. And so, with her accuracy being just a tiny bit lower, but all of the powers and several of the advantages that come along with being Hawkeye, she's able to do, on a slightly weaker scale, what Hawkeye can, and that just comes from experience. As we look at Kate Bishop moving forward, you'll start to notice she can do a lot of the same things that Hawkeye can. But the key here is that she's set up to play off of Hawkeye's skills. So both Hawkeyes, having very similar ranges in trick arrows and in power, can play off of each other very well with team attacks, with the aid action, with teamwork, with setting up people. All these things can be used in order to play off of each other. So while one Hawkeye is really good, another Hawkeye in a defensible position where they're supporting each other is twice as good. Finally, I want to devote a little bit of time to my favorite character in the show, the real standout of the show, Lucky the Pizza Dog. Now, his power level, he's just a dog. He has no powers or anything like that, so his power level is just a little bit low for the setting. However, he makes up for it in key advantages, mostly that daze that's supported by his expertise cuteness, because he is so adorable, and the fascinate cuteness power, which he uses to great effect because he is too adorable that he can limit their opponent's actions, and he makes for the best distraction in the entire world. I love him. When's he going to get his own show? But that about wraps it up for this hero showcase. I think we might need to go back a little bit more and take a look at some of the characters from the latest MCU movies and see how we can translate those into Mutants and Masterminds. But if you haven't already, please like and subscribe. Of course, comment with any questions or anything you'd like to add to the videos or future videos, and I'd be happy to answer them. And as always, thank you so much for listening, and stay tuned.